Yo, what's good with y'all? If you are considering making your own samples for your own beats, you're kind of starting out and you haven't done this previously, or you maybe have done it a few times and still looking for the way to streamline it and make it simple, or maybe you just want to learn the basics of how to make samples and make them sound vintage and unique and have texture, I want to show you a simple way. Most of the plugins that I use in here are easy to get, but most of the plugins are free. With that in mind, it's just so easy to start making your own samples. By the way, I do have free sample pack available. I'm gonna attach video somewhere here. Download, do with it what you will, create, make a lot of beats, make a lot of music. I hope you have fun with it. So here's the most recent sample that I made. Very basic, not a lot of sounds, but that's just me following the basic principle, less is more. I usually start my samples with piano, some kind of piano sound, but you can later swap it to any other different VST or even one shot. So here I started with Analog Labs preset Wunderkind. Now I don't know music theory like that, so I'm not gonna try and pretend that, you know, here's the chord that I used and here's the chord that I used. I just don't know. I know how to count and make chords, and I also play around with my keyboard a lot. Also, another option, ChatGPT. If you are a complete beginner, that's what I would suggest. However, don't make it complicated. Just start with simple triads, maybe add, you know, the fifth or the seventh if it's an R&B type chord. But if it's, you know, some kind of trap adjacent sample that you're trying to make, doesn't really matter. Just play around by ear. These first two chords are the same chord, literally. So if I bring this top note back down by an octave, you'll see it's the same chord structure, just inverted. I strummed the chords slightly, then this chord and this are very similar as well. If I bring the top note down here, it's gonna land on this C sharp. The structure of the chord is pretty much similar, just without this A note, and then the root note is also different. But again, that also came out of me just playing around on my keyboard. Make sure you don't get stuck trying to play chords for half an hour, 40 minutes, unless you're enjoying that. But I think that's a vibe killer, so move quickly. You can make a good sample even with two chords. B-Sticks on YouTube has so many great videos talking about how you can only utilize two chords for amazing sounding samples. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. One more thing, randomize the velocities. So each note is at a different volume. That way it sounds like a naturally played chord progression. I added top notes, walk down I call it. It looks like stairs. Last note here, I think it's just a part of the chord. Here's what it sounds like. I played that with effects. Now play it without the effects so that you know what the original preset sounds like. You can tell it's a lot more kind of in your face, abrasive, and kind of more clean. So I just wanted to make the sound a little more vintage and old. So I have this patcher preset called Retro DIY emulation of RC20. It's made by Frank Pohl. He does it in the instance of a patcher. So he has all of this created in the back end here. There's a ton of plugins here, so you can go ahead and download it. He doesn't charge absolutely nothing. Then I added Sketch Cassette, Cymatics, Bass, Light, Reverb plugin. You can add any parametric EQ too. Let's move on to the next one. Key runs. So this is just walk down and walk up piano notes. It's the same preset from Analog Labs, and here's what it sounds like. I just thought it would be fun to have that reverb. This is the Crystalline plugin. Again, you can add any other reverb plugin, parametric EQ, removing highs and lows, that's all. Okay, next sound I have here is from Hybrid Keys. That's a Contact library. I believe I got it for free a while ago. What I did, I copied the MIDI notes from the grand piano into this pad preset. Here's what it sounds like, the original sound. Here's what it sounds like with effects. Wobbling, kind of like a wavy effect, done with either Kickstart plugin, some kind of a sidechaining plugin. I do my sidechaining effect in Fruity Love Filter. I created this and saved it as a preset. I literally called it my Kickstart, so you know, it's a basic sidechaining effect. I like adding it to a lot of my melodies. Going back to grand piano melody, I consolidated it into an audio file because I wanted to chop it up and then reverse it and have another layer of the same sound but reversed, just for additional texture. Now this is a reversed sound. I cut it at these transient points and arranged it into the progression that was making sense for me without the effects. It did feel like it was a little too much, like too abrasive. I removed highs and lows. I added Fruity Love Filter again for that sidechaining effect. I added reverb and I added an underwater effect. It's called Drake It, removing the bit rate from the highs and making it sound like it's underwater. Now with effect. Next, I added a basic Reese bass. This came from GMS. I tuned up this preset a while ago from some YouTube tutorial. Somebody was teaching how to make these Reese bass presets in GMS, and I loved it. I actually love this plugin. I think it's highly underrated. I took the bass notes from the original chord progression and I added them into here. I added some transition notes. That's what this progression sounds like. Now for effects, I removed highs and then I added this bass lane plugin. I probably do it with 90% of my basses. You would set up a threshold for the lows to stay in mono, meaning that this knob, currently it's set up at 300 hertz. So if you look at the EQ, 300 hertz would be approximately somewhere here, right? So 294. So this is where it would make everything in mono because you don't want all of your lows to stay in stereo because that would muddy up the sound. And you want this, you know, full spectrum of the sound, but you want this part of it in mono and the rest of it you want in stereo. That's the complexity of Reese basses, is because they are, you know, taking up a lot of lows and mids and sometimes even highs, but how do you make sure that lows stay in mono for that clarity of sound? So this is what this plugin does. This knob is basically how wide you want it after 300 hertz and up, and this is just the amount of the effect. So I put both of these to 100%, and sometimes I would set it at 400, sometimes at 300. That literally depends on your taste. I got this plugin for free. It says right here, free. I'm not sure if it's free at this moment. It's a very useful plugin, especially if you make beats and then you want to listen to them on the phone or smaller speakers or mono speakers. This would be your lifesaver. Last but not the least, there was a vocal that I recorded with my voice. I'm gonna play it with no effects. Although there is already some kind of pitch bending that's applied to the vocal. That's why it's not exactly my voice, but I'm gonna play it without the effects. I chose Stretch Pro mode. With Stretch Pro, you can go and change the format. You can go to the left or to the right. And, to the right, that would be like an extreme pitch monk effect. And to the left, it would be like really deep format sound. On top of that, I added some effects. EQ, Rudy Flanger, Vintage Phaser. You can add regular phaser that's available in your FL Studio. Rudy Blood Overdrive. All of these are free. Crystalline. You can add a different reverb because this one I paid for. And then Delay plugin is also a free plugin. Go ahead and copy it. And there we go. Now with effect, here's what it sounds like. I really love that delay effect. It creates an additional texturized effect, kind of fills out the space. But here's what I decided to stop, because like you start adding all of these effects, they create more texture. You don't want to overdo the sample. You want to leave a lot of space, because drums on top of that, maybe extra effects, vocal, maybe you're going to make a song out of it. You got to be really careful how much elements you're adding to it. That's your artistic choice. But I think this is the simplest way to come up with new samples. I hope you got value out of it. I hope you have fun with it. Peace out.